Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the show. It's episode 350. What is it? November 21st, 2022. One match. We'll call it the eve of the NWCA All-Star Classic. And I think a first for the show. We have an in-studio guest here, Parker Keckeisen, two-time All-American from Northern Iowa, wrestling at 184 pounds against Aaron Brooks. Parker, thanks for coming. How you doing?
Oh, thanks for having me. We got here last night, so why not come in?
Yeah.
I'm the first guest. Is that really?
When we do this, right, normally it's
We'll just say it.
video calls, Zoom calls, and I don't really need my headpiece anymore. And in the back table, we got his coach, Lee Roper. The lovely
Hello, everybody. How you
Lee
doing?
Roper.
They got me over in the corner, just so you know. They pushed me off over to the side. I'm just a chauffeur this weekend.
Yeah, so two creams, no sugar.
No cream. Come on now.
No, just black?
Just straight black. That's right.
Okay. Actually, Lee, I wanted to... What?
He's tough like that.
I want to start with you, Lee. When did Parker show up on your radar, right? And how did that happen?
Actually, Randy Pugh and I, we went up to the Wisconsin State Tournament. Parker was still young at the time, and we were watching another guy, actually, but just the way he wrestled, and he's got this explosion on his leg attacks, especially from like mid-distance space, getting to his double back in those times. It kind of like, you're like, whoa, man, this guy can cover some ground. And then the physical pace and everything that afterwards. And you always got a lot of respect for what Ben and Max and Wagner and those guys do at AWA. So, like, all right, get this guy on the radar. Look through the bracket, like Keckeisen. All right, that name's going to be easy to remember. And just one of those things that kind of stuck out watching another guy. And then you get to know him more and get to know the family. And guy's a home run. We got to get this guy. Got to get him.
When do you first remember Lee, or whoever, I'm guessing it was Lee, but maybe it was Pugh or Doug, kind of reaching out? And was it at that tournament or sometime later?
No, I knew that summer, like I think sophomore year summer. It was actually funny. I was wrestling Brooks, and you can see Roper in the background of on YouTube, and I was like, oh, who's that? But also like Max kind of put him on my radar. He was talking to Lee Roper. I'm like, I didn't know. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know who Lee was, but
You must have watched the previews back in the day.
I didn't.
He'd have been like 4 years old.
Yeah, I would have been
Gosh.
cool. No, honestly.
We're getting old, Bader.
Yeah. No. But he texted me on the first day. He was the first coach to text me. And I remember giving this like thank you, like generic thank you response, and then an hour later I'm like, I should probably actually have a conversation or have a good response to him, and then I don't know, we just grew our relationship over and I don't know. We kind of just clicked. Maybe I don't think it was because the first coach talking to me, but I don't know. We just had a connection like that, and him and Max are very similar in how they want to coach. So I don't know. Just kind of rolled with it.
When you said I get, he texted me and then I gave him like a generic response. Was it like not that you were blowing him off, but maybe you weren't as interested as you later became? Or
I think I was just like kind of surprised I was getting texted, honestly, because I was like, oh, Lee, like coach, September 1st. So it's like I didn't really expect any text, and then Lee Roper texted me, and like, I think I said, okay, thank you, thanks for your interest or something, and I don't know, an hour later I like thanked him for his interest, and it was more, there was more heart behind it.
Yeah.
If I could, I don't know.
Sure. So coming up, having some success in wrestling and thinking, okay, I want to wrestle in college. Mm-hmm. What did you know about UNI? And two, or maybe it's the same thing. What was your perception?
What I knew about UNI, I'd say we went to Askern. We went to the Wartburg duels, which is
Max. Or the club.
The club.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think Max wasn't there. I was going to Heartland at the time. But we went to the Wartburg duels up in Waverly, which is 20 minutes north of Cedar Falls, and UNI was actually dueling Wisconsin and West Gym. So a bunch of like it's funny. There's a photo on my mom's Facebook, but a bunch of those AWA kids, we were sitting. It was a packed West Gym at first, so like they had to like pull strings to get us in. I'm pretty sure Doug was just like let them in, and yeah, so we were sitting on the Wisconsin bench, right, like on the left side of the mat, and on the West Gym floor. So I remember going, like, I was like probably my first college duel experience ever. I honestly, yeah, it was my first college duel, so kind of weird, you and I, but so in West Gym it was rocking. So And I remember Wisconsin kind of got their butt whooped. If you know, Coach.
Yeah, it was before I got here, but yeah, you and I especially had a good start to it, and then ended up having a good duel. So.
Yeah.
So you're from Wisconsin, obviously. Yeah. But at this duel, Wisconsin wrestling at UNI in a Pac West gym.
Yeah.
Are you more of like thinking about going to Wisconsin, or did that open your eyes, or had you already considered UNI? I assume at some point you at least considered Wisconsin.
Yeah, I consider Wisconsin in the recruiting process, but no, honestly, like I was young then. I was just wrestling for fun, wrestling in the winter.
Yeah.
I was probably more focused on playing baseball in the spring and summer. So, like I was probably sixth grade.
Sixth grade
during
that's
this
earlier
time.
I thought.
Sixth grade. I remember like Jacob Holschlag. He was like a junior in high school then, or he just committed, and he was at that duel too, which is kind of funny. But
I feel like I saw a picture of this. Maybe at West Gym somewhere. Is there a picture of this?
no, that duel is against Iowa State. No, I don't know where the photo is.
Oh.
I wish.
All right, fair enough. So that was your introduction to UNI. When did it was it the text from him that like got you on the road of like maybe I consider going there?
Yeah, I would say, 100%. Them reaching out to me, like, I don't know. I have like it's not a weird loyalty, but we just clicked, right? And I know I had other coaches reach out to me, and I almost thought they were more real. And I think
What do you mean more real?
more real and like I don't know. They could tell me aspects about my wrestling. Like Roper's been watching me probably since that day and at the state tournament, I would think. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, probably not earlier, I'm going to be honest, but maybe who knows. But
it wasn't pretty earlier, but watch some of it before. You go back and try and find some matches for sure. It wasn't very pretty, but you saw the progress happening.
yeah, but in our conversations, I could tell that like you and I, they almost had a plan for my my progress, right? And it's like not just because you're a good wrestler right now, or like you're good. They could like I was good, but they could also tell I felt like they had a path on where I was going. So I'm like, all right, they care a lot, they know a lot. So it was almost. I think I almost kind of made my mind up. Well, I did commit pretty early, but I almost made that. I remember like talks with other coaches, like I was very like formal, right? Very formal, like yes or no sir. But like they would call and it felt like I was like almost a part of the family already. And so I think I knew right away where I was gonna go, and I committed in May. And I know Max wasn't very happy, but I like to kind of because he wanted me to like go to Fargo and do like I did do good at Fargo that year, but he wanted me to go to Fargo and see if I could get more like
Opportunity.
Yeah, but I committed, and I kind of we talked about this the other day. I kind of want to rub it in his face a little bit, but
Max?
Yeah, but no, he means
Go ahead.
He means well, but
Of course. So Lee, he said these guys seemed like they had a plan for me from the start, or even before the start. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's really one of the few ways I can recruit well, Bader. I'm actually terrible on the phone, and actually Randy probably did most of the talking to Parker. You've known me for a long time, Bader, and once I get to know you really well, I'm pretty good in that conversation. But initially, I can be pretty socially awkward because I'm actually uncomfortable with that a whole lot. But the wrestling aspect and the connection, that's how I kind of grow the relationship with the athletes I coach. So once I decide, okay, I really want to coach this guy and I see some potential there, the process starts for winning NCAA and world titles because he started talking about those goals. And some guys you believe more than others. And when he was speaking, man, I was just in. I was just locked in, and I believe whatever this guy's saying. So, yeah, the process did start on, well, how do I get this guy better? How do I continue the development that I'm seeing happen on the mat that I'm so infatuated with? How am I going to continue that? And that's what I need to communicate through the recruiting process. So, yeah, there's a plan. And I don't do much without a plan, so definitely have one. And just about every guy I recruit, start that process to how are we going to continue to keep this guy getting better as he comes and starts wrestling with us.
I guess, what was that plan, or how did you go about putting a plan together for a guy that hadn't even committed yet, but that you're like feel a strong connection to?
Yeah, there's a process that I go through, and it goes back and you look at those early matches and you're seeing how much he's improving, right? And so I got a number of matches and a number amount of time that I want to watch him on film, and then there's two columns that I identify. How are they winning matches and how are they losing matches? and I just fill those out. And then once I feel pretty good about what I've got down, I start developing a plan on how they win matches bigger and broader, how they can get to those positions more, and how you shrink, how they lose their matches. And it's just a process. It's a system I run through when I'm recruiting guys and really think, all right, this guy's going to be special. How do I get them to improve? It's the same thing I do with the athletes that are at UNI already. And I just start that earlier because there's a lot of ground to cover, man. It's hard to win NCAAs. Is something we're trying to do is we keep moving up the profile of UNI, and we're tired of being a mid-major, and we're tired of next year, and we're tired of being the little brother, honestly. That's the way we get talked about a lot. And I am a little brother, and I know how that feels, and eventually at some point you get sick of it, and you're ready to start kicking big brother's butt. So I'm trying to maximize that amount of time and progress we make. So the earlier I start that work, the faster we hit the ground running and start beating some better guys.
Yeah, you talk about, I was watching how he's winning matches. I was watching how he's losing matches. I'm more interested in how was he losing matches, at least from early on, and what you thought about that, and what did you identify?
Well, going off memory, I'd have to go back and dig through my notebooks then, but really remember one of the main ways he was losing was a way I actually liked. He was over-wrestling positions. And in the experience I've had coaching and talking with people that are way better than me, that's something that's easier to dial back than getting a guy more aggressive in positions. I mean, honestly, especially in freestyle, a lot of the points he was giving up, he created himself. I mean, he had easy push-out opportunities. He'd get overextended, and he had some ankle and hip mobility stuff back then that caused him to have to lunge out of bounds to get those push-outs, and then exposures would happen. And that was one of the main things I saw is like, oh, he's just over-wrestling things. That's a good thing. So the top of the list, or close to the top of the list, again, I'd have to go back and look and see, was something I actually liked, how he was losing, something that I could work with. And then he had some defensive liabilities then, and that just came from more time in positions. He's an incredible hand fighter. He's really aggressive with his offense. He doesn't spend a whole lot of time with a guy in on his legs, especially with those high school guys that he's just flat out better than for the most part. So defensive was a liability for him too, and it's something he's worked incredibly hard at shoring up since the time he's been at UNI. But those were the top two things I saw I was losing. He didn't have a whole lot of layers on his defense, and he was overextending himself in some offensive positions.
Sure. Parker, he's talking about one thing I liked about the way he lost was being being aggressive, right, rather than just sitting back and losing. Where did that, and I think it's fair to say you have a pretty aggressive style, and you like to move forward, and you like to create action. How did that come to be?
Aggressive. I don't know. My mind's going like, I know Max always talks about lose by 2 or lose by 6, but like in freestyle kind of, but
like who cares, just go for it.
Yeah, but part of my mind's like going like, why lose by 2 when a loss is a loss, right?
Yeah.
If you get attacked or you get lose by 2, but that's honestly probably not the case. I would say my aggressive style kind of just came from I don't know. I feel like I'm a go-getter. I want to like almost try to walk off that mat with no regrets almost, like. And I think I kind of came to this conclusion like a lot when COVID happened. Like NCAA tournament might never happen again. Hopefully it does. Like it got taken away, which is terrible. But it's like, how do I want, say my last match ever is tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right? How do I want it to be? Do I want to have regrets and be like, oh, maybe if I try to get to legs one more time or pulled front headlock or tried to create more action? Do I want to have regret from that, or do I want to be like, oh, I gave it my all? So, but I'm like looking back, like I don't really know in high school like what that kind of stemmed from. Maybe it's my parents wanted me to give the best effort. I know.
Yeah.
I think my sister was telling this story the other day about my dad. She was playing soccer and like if you're not giving like your best effort, get off the field almost, my dad would say. So I think our parents kind of demanded like our best, and which is kind of the standard. Go give your best, and if it's over aggressive, it's over aggressive. Like you can fix mistakes from there. Like if you're too aggressive, like clearly you can fix mistakes.
Yeah.
So
like were you pretty aggressive from day one? Whether I don't think you were with Askrens early on, but like were you always just like, let's go?
I would say yeah. 100%. I was trying to get doubles all the time. I think I've probably hit a lot of space doubles in my career, and from the youth, so I don't really know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's
to be
all right.
honest.
You're just kind of wired that way. Which
Yeah.
is
Wired to go get it.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my parents. Like they're go getters. It's probably genetic. Like they're gonna do their go out there and go get it. Like that's my parents.
It's nature and nurture, right? Like
Yeah.
you have that nature inside of you. Plus, you saw them be
Yeah.
go-getters, and you're like, all right, it's turned you into a go-getter. You brought up COVID. Now you were at UNI when COVID hit, right? Or were you in
Yeah.
high school? Yeah.
Yeah, it was my redshirt freshman year.
So take me through that experience of like, one, finding out a couple days before the tournament or whatever, and then two, what'd you do the next weeks and months?
COVID. Yeah, COVID happened. They said NCAAs. We had a conversation and said NCAAs was canceled, and it was terrible. Like I don't know. Like I didn't think I was gonna. There's like one day me and Lance were on and we tried to wrestle after, and I'm like, dude, I can't even wrestle today. I feel so bad for those guys that are going to NCAAs, and it was bad. And it just like in my mind, it's like in my mind, I think time later, it's like I want to try to have no regrets in this career, whether it's a practice or whether it's in life. And but then that summer, I know I went home for a little bit training. Like the academy was still open, then COVID got bad and we couldn't go there anymore. And my buddy Peter Driscoll, we had the Lamonts, they had a mat, so I got that mat and we put it in my basement. My buddy Peter Driscoll would come over probably 4 times a week, and we would roll around. I thought I was trying to learn top there, but no, I tried to like learn crab during quarantine. It really didn't work out that well. But and then we went back to Cedar Falls, and we had a mat in our garage, and I was working that summer. That was not my happiest summer, to say the least.
Why not?
Because I was busy. I was working all day, and
What was your job?
I was working construction for about a month there.
Hard.
Yeah, so I would wake up at 5 a.m. We go lift, and then I would go to work from 7 to 5, and then wrestle after that. Like, and it was just me and Austin. We rolled a lot there, and it was not it was fun, but it was like, I don't like this work thing. This work thing's making me kind of hate wrestling almost. But so luckily, and then I don't know. That was like most of the summer, and then school started back up, and we slowly got back into West Gym.
Sure. That doing construction between practices, essentially, right? Between lifting and wrestling, maybe gave you some perspective on like wrestling's hard, but it's awesome.
Yeah, right. Yeah, wrestling is hard, but it's 100% true. Like I like building things with my hands, but construction, it was just, I think it was a long day, and like it definitely made me love wrestling a little bit. Like let's do this.
What specifically was your task with the construction side of things?
So I was working for Wagman Construction. He was building this house, so like we were. Like it really wasn't terrible, but we were doing like finish carpentry. Like we were staying indoor. Me and John McConkey were staying indoors. We were like we did a lot of staining. I think we stained every I don't know. Yeah, you got the molding, you got the doors. Then we had to like, I don't even know I'm a construction management major, so I should really know what's going on, but. Yeah, we did everything. There was a couple times I went to the job site. We hung trusses, so it was cool. Like if I wasn't wrestling, I think I would have enjoyed it more. But it was still fun, but not my main goal, right?
What was the least enjoyable thing you did with construction?
Honestly, it was probably being on my feet all day.
Yeah.
Right. Being on my we were on our feet staining stuff from 7 to 12, and then 1 to 5. So it wasn't the most enjoyable thing.
No.
But it wasn't terrible. So.
Yeah, that's what I said. Compare the first time you rolled with Parker to like now.
Oh man. Well, the first thing is it used to go a lot better for me than it does now, and especially just recently. I had kind of plan on what we were working on this spring and summer, and then always like to check in and see how he's done with the lessons we put in and how his wrestling's evolving. And it was one Friday to where it started off as a light spar, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna test him today. I'm gonna see what he's got, and I just started ramping up the spar until it kind of realized, okay, we're kind of competing here a little bit. And when I tell you, Bader, that's the worst I've got my butt kicked ever in wrestling, I'm not kidding. Everything I did was wrong because he made it wrong. Not that I was wrestling bad that day. I felt like I was wrestling pretty good, and he just had an answer for everything. And I don't know how many times you pinned me that day, Parker, 10 times probably. And I don't go to my back a whole lot, especially through scrambles. I got pretty good awareness in there. And that's where I was like, oh, man, this guy has found a new level. And the level he was at before was already there competing for national titles. And I was like, man, he's made a huge jump, not just in his skill that he can acquire out of his body, but also his decision-making he's making. Because when you end up in a position, you understand this, Bader, like you got choices you can make, right? Yeah. I can go single leg, I can go heavy hip sprawl, I can get off the shot, I can go inside and change it to an underhook, I can go Chirella positions, body cradle, I can come over the top and go ankle. So there's decisions to make. His decision-making matured. And it just comes down to risk assessment. What position am I in? What gives me the best odds of winning? Just made a huge jump in there. And then just his confidence, he believed in the decisions he was making, and I could feel it coming out. And I knew I was in trouble that day and have been ever since. And I'm telling you, it's a funny thing is, I mean, I don't make excuses about getting older and losing. I try and evolve my wrestling too. It's one of the ways I grow. He got me serious about getting back in shape, like lifting weights again, taking care of my body. And I was like, if I'm going to continue to push this guy and challenge him, I have to get better physically, not just the mental work I try and do every single day. I got to start taking my body more seriously too, so I can continue to challenge him in these positions. So big wake-up call compared to where he first came in, which he always would put a hard pace on you, and he would make you pay a price physically. But I don't even say skill. The skill was there, but his access to the skill, the decision-making is what really changed. And, man, just like I said, I'm getting my butt kicked a whole lot now wrestling. And when he first got here, it made my ego feel a lot better. I scored a lot more.
There's a couple of things I want to ask you something in a second, but you said that aside from the mental work I do every day, as a coach, what does that mean? As for you, Lee, as a coach, what do you mean as the mental work I do every day?
Well, that's a fairly deep question, but
that's why we're here.
Yeah, and that's actually, man, I got to thank Kerry Colott for I think he was the first guy I brought in to do a camp during the club days, during compound time. And it was a conversation I had that was kind of innocuous at first. I asked him about being a corner coach. And I didn't know anything about it, and I wanted to be a good coach, and I was just trying to learn as much as I could. And he gave me some advice on being in the corner, but the conversation, and more than that, the thought process that stemmed afterwards, what really got me to understand, like, okay, during the match time, that's the time for them to compete. Let them compete. Practice time, our team practices, my individual time with him is really my competition. That's when I'm competing against whoever does most of Brooks's training, right, for the match that's coming up. Yeah. I compete with that coach during practice. So if that's my competition, when is my practice? When am I getting better? And that's when my day-to-day habits started to really change. And I mean, it doesn't matter, 365 days a year, I've got 2 hours that I spend on my practice, my time. And it's just different skills you work on as a coach, like communication's a big one. Like, how are you describing the knowledge that you have in your head? And then go into the knowledge in your head, that's another day that you work on, where you work on acquiring more knowledge. And then observation skills, like how many details can I see? How many different things can I watch at one time? So there's different skills that you work on as a coach, just like you do as an athlete. He's working on his down blocks and his head position. I'm working on efficiency of communication and knowledge in shin wizard position. So it's just different details that you work on, but the concept's still the same of improving that our athletes do. It's just got a big sticky note sitting behind my desk that says, take your own advice, stupid. And all that means is the things that you're having them do, you need to be doing yourself, just different areas that you're studying and focusing on.
I followed all that, but there was a point where I was almost going to get lost. You ever lose you?
I would lose, Roper.
Or vice versa?
Well, I lose myself sometimes. So this thing starts rolling, man, and it's a blessing a lot of times, but sometimes it's a curse, and it'll get rolling, and I'll start thinking about, like, talking with that. I start thinking about what he needs to be doing next week, and before I know, I'm like, what am I doing over here in this thought? So I lose myself a whole lot of times too.
No, I think we were talking about yesterday on the plane ride or car ride here. I have an idea, and then I talk way too fast, and then I'm like, I think he knows the idea. So, I definitely gotta slow down a little bit sometime. My girlfriend would say that too.
All right.
But, I figured out my the thing that was the worst in construction.
Okay.
There was like fire backing, so we did an apartment complex, and there was I think it's firewall, and I had to clip at the bottom in the middle of every bottom and the top of every unit, and it was 2 stories. It took me forever. That was the worst. It was just repetitive.
Hey, Bader, if you don't mind, I'd like to chime in during that COVID time of something I observed in him, too, that he was dealing with. Because honestly, thinking back to that time and some conversations we have, it probably wasn't really even the job and the lifting and the wrestling singularly. It was everything stacked up on top of each other. Because there was a day we were working out in some garage or another room or wherever we were finding space and time to start getting better in, that he was just in a bad mood. And I'm like, what's up, buddy? You normally on the wrestling mat. That's where that dude loves wrestling so much. He's like, my life stinks. And just talked about how he doesn't have any free time. He can't do any of the things he wants to do. And we had a good conversation about your goals and sometimes what you want. Those two things don't line up. And you have to really look at what you want to accomplish and then look at how you're living your life to see if they do. And he's really coachable and he has the desire to do some big things in his life for bigger reasons other than just winning. But he really matured during that time. Because he got to understand, okay, as I get older, I'm going to have less time to do the things I want to, and I have responsibilities, not just to the team and to myself and to my family, but I have responsibility to the goals that I set. And during the day, I have to make sure I am doing what I need to meet those responsibilities. And he just kind of grew up and said, okay, if I want to be national champ, world champ, this is what my life's going to look like. And honestly, he spends more time now getting better at the sport than he did back then. But I mean, you go through a maturation process. He was a young man before then, and then after COVID time, he became a grown man just because he had to give up some of that fun that you have in your life to acquire more skill. Yeah. So he really, had a big maturing time on all right, I'm going to spend a lot of time on this.
Yeah, definitely taking a lot of ownership of what I do. Yeah. What I want to do.
So. Okay, and then one thing I wanted to ask you, for when you were saying he's talking about decision making and he developed the skills. Well, he actually had the skills, but he's unlocking them, right? That part, we don't have decisions to make in any given position, whether I'm going to shoot, whether I'm defense, right? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, as far as making decisions on the mat, how do you process that in the moment? And then, and maybe before that, how do you learn which decisions are right? That's kind of a broad question.
Yeah. Yeah. Just learning position almost. Kind of, sort of.
Well,
I'm just thinking, my mind is going to underhook, what we did a lot this spring. And
let's go there.
That was spring. And I know Roper kind of, he changed, we talked about this too. He changed the approach of how he, instead of learning step by step. And I think Max also, Max put in his I think his goal was for me was have no holes in my wrestling, and of course there's holes, some are bigger than smaller, but I think Max kind of gave me he gave me the full circle of wrestling, right? And I think I always had a little background in underhook, but never really emphasized it. So through that now, through my little knowledge of underhook, he threw underhook out there and kind of let me just go play with it and make it my own. Yeah. So
Max or
no,
Lee?
Roper.
Yeah.
Roper. Yeah. Underhook was a big thing we focused on this spring and summer, like I said. But just going in there and honestly just making mistakes, right? See what feels good. See, I know one day I was rolling with Austin and it was what if he, so if I have an underhook, what happens if he blocks low? Blocks at my arm. What happens if I get it high? What happens if he's clearing? I don't know what this motion is called. What's that motion called?
Side clear.
Side clear, and it's just it's almost writing those 3 down and then having your options off that. If he side clears, I can go arm pull. If he blocks, I can go low single, or I could grab hand and snap. Uh-huh. If I get it, then I got my throw by, and then if I get full underhook, I got my throw by, and there's infinite options off that, and other things too. So
This was this was a excuse me, like a slow learning. Is that what you're describing? The learning process and understanding when to utilize different moves, for lack of better words. Is that what you're
was it
describing?
slow? I feel like it went pretty fast, but
No, really, what he's trying to describe,
Yeah,
and like
what
I
am
can
I-
put a little bit more concreteness to it because I'm the one trying to put these in place for him. So what I've been doing with Parker since the beginning, and go back to your question about the skills there, unlocking the skill, it's just about organizing it in his brain. So think about underhook's a great example. How many possibilities are there in an underhook?
Countless.
A lot. So you just start throwing skills against the wall, you have him play with it, and then the real learning goes with what he just talked about. Okay, what happens when the guy flanks down to my thigh to stop my underhook? What am I going to do? What happens when that backside thumb block comes up to my throat so he starts creating space so he can like Euro sag clear through? What am I going to do in those positions? What are my quick reads? What are my long reads? What's my main leg attack out of it? And just organizing that around so he's just kind of running through a yes or no, true or false logic loop in his brain. Logic loop's how I think about the sport. But everybody has their own process for how they put all that skill in their head. And it's just helping him with the organization of how he thinks about the sport so he just can run that cycle. And then eventually he gets the position he's got a lot of confidence in and then take the risk for a score.
then I think it's like more time. I don't love the answer like with down blocks. It was I don't know. It was probably a month ago. Like I was not getting it, and his answer is like, "Hey, more time." And I think that's like one of my because like everyone wants the instant gratification, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I think that's my I like the answer, but it's like, oh really? More time. But and then like just time in the position, like, and then I got probably sparred with Taylor and Austin and Glazier and underhook all summer. So it's and then there's positions there's other positions we did too, but just time in the position, figuring it out. So
Are you spending time? You're spending time in these positions, and you're organizing, like he said, kind of in your brain when to do what. Is this something you put much time and thought into outside of the gym, at home, anywhere else? Like some people can't shut it off. Some people only want to do it in the room, and it's a spectrum. Curious where you are.
I would say, all right, this is another thing we talked about the other day. I find it's finally coming like full circle. But after practice, he talked about was it elasticity? I can't.
Elasticity?
I can't enunciate that great.
Sorry.
But it's like, so I do this. We talked about this in the interviews too. Like I do this mental imagery after practice, and it's kind of almost like a review of like I almost get like mental reps of like what we're doing, whether we did gap closure today or we did bottom, and like I'm getting mental reps in that. Then I do some competition mental imagery after that, and then I don't really realize it, but I am thinking like every once in a while, like, and it's not every once in a while, it's probably every day. Like I'm still thinking about practice, and then all of a sudden I'm going to bed, and I'm thinking about a wrestling position, which is kind of in that like you don't notice like you're making food, you're watching Monday Night Football, right? Like you're not thinking about it, but then like all of a sudden like a thought pops in your head, and it's kind of weird. So, but I totally understand the elasticity.
I think that's right.
Yeah,
Elasticity.
it's like he's trying to practice almost last till the morning individual or something, or it's like I'll come in for my lift in the morning and be like, oh rope, I had this idea, or when I was going to bed, or it's weird. It's not weird. It's cool because like I don't consider myself like thinking about wrestling all the time, but I probably am in a weird way. Yeah.
So, like, you're watching Monday Night Football and you're not thinking about wrestling, but something you've been.
It's like,
putting
oh,
thought
I
into-
had this idea into Hundred. I think it was like we were working on ear snap, and I've been doing an ear snap from collar tie, and then now it's like almost ear snap from. I was like, oh, I wonder if I could ear snap from underhook. And you can, and lo and behold, like you go in there and you play with it the next day, and I'm doing it a lot more. Like it's, I don't know.
All right.
Kind of weird how that works.
I love this.
All part of your plan, right?
All part of the plan.
Speaking of the plan, for you guys, the plan is to wrestle Aaron Brooks tomorrow and beat him. You've wrestled 8 times. You're 0-8. We've been kind of through this. Some really close matches.
Yeah.
Recently, some bigger gaps, maybe in the middle. Going back to Fargo or something of the sort, freestyle. When you the first couple times you wrestled him, did you have an expectation? Did you think I can or will beat this guy, or was it like just let me kind of see where I stack up?
Yeah. Yeah, and I definitely in high school, I wrestled in freshman year, and I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know anything about wrestling. I didn't know who I was wrestling.
Yeah.
But somehow made the quarters of Fargo and Aaron Brooks. Like, all right, let's go wrestle. And I don't know, I think I got a couple takedowns, and then he ends up going and win Fargo that year. I'm pretty sure. And then first year juniors, we wrestled in like the round of 64. I'm like, all right, I wrestled this guy before, so it's like maybe I can go beat him. All right.
Yeah. I
don't. And then I think the next time we wrestled might have been, then it was Vegas. I was definitely trying to go beat him, right? Like, I'm not going to, I don't like to think I go back down from a guy.
Yeah.
Like, I've definitely fallen, I've definitely done that before, right? And it's youth and maybe sometimes in college, but I'm going to, like what my parents have instilled in me, like, go take it, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to go try to take it, and, where am I in this?
You wrestled him 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, 3 or 4 times. Then world team trials. I'm like, all right, I'll go try to make a world team. I don't know. I lost.
Yeah.
And then.
Look, did your confidence, basically I wanted to understand where your head was at the first couple of times. You didn't even know who he was at the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
Fargo your freshman year, and then you wrestled him. I think it was the semis of NCAAs, and the next year Florida. Is that right?
Yeah, semis NCAAs.
Kind of take me through those and your mental approach going into those, as those are the more recent ones.
Yeah, so mental approach, it was weird. So, COVID year. So it was COVID year semis. It was like the first match all year I really didn't get nervous for. I was like, because I've wrestled Brooks, and I think it was my first year of college, so I'm like, oh, Brooks, cool. Like, I remember watching him my redshirt freshman year, he's doing pretty good. And it's like, oh, I've wrestled Brooks before. First match, like, I kind of know what to expect. But it was like weird type of no nerves. I'm like, am I prepared? But then, but I don't know, we go out there, we wrestle, and I lost the match, but
Close, right?
It was close.
2-point match, I think.
Yeah, I got a takedown at the edge. I definitely think there was more in there, and like in one of those, like taking I don't know, I feel like I kind of did take a back seat almost, and not saying I was gonna win the match, but it was one of those matches after that I knew there just wasn't enough effort there almost, right? And I don't know if I have regret from it, but it's like it was almost, I remember we had a talk in the back right after. I was like, this is to Roper. I'm like, that was BS. I didn't even really try to go try. I remember I was in on 2 Perry shrugs, and like Parker, he didn't even try to build up and try to score. Like his hit, like he's got heavy hips, but it's like they weren't that heavy. You can at least attempt or do something, and it just there wasn't that enough go get there. I would say, I'm gonna be honest, but there was enough go get there. And then I know in Florida, it was pretty much like I'm gonna just 7-minute. All right, 7-minute bike sprint. That's what I'm thinking, right? 7-minute bike sprint. See what can happen. And I remember, I don't know, it was probably one of my I really enjoyed the scrap. Like I got to the legs a couple times, didn't convert. It's almost like expecting yourself to get the legs and scoring, but it's like almost like goal was trying to get the legs. And it's like when you're wrestling Aaron Brooks, like you need to be there 100%, but definitely was like, I'm gonna go see how many shots I can take and see what we can do. And it was fun. It was 3-2, and I don't know, he got the best of me again.
Can you ever take confidence from a loss? Say the 3-2, you're like, I've lost, but I've closed this gap to where it can't get no closer. Right? I am right there. I was one position away from winning this match. Or is it no? You just got to get your hand raised, and that's that.
I feel like, yeah, you can always take confidence from a loss, but I think it was almost confidence like, hey, you're best, like you're there, right? It's like you said, one position, and hopefully try to just go try to get into as many positions, because if you believe you're the best wrestler, like you get in 10 positions instead of, like, we didn't get into one, so I'm not really, I don't really know, but like if you believe you're the best wrestler, go try to get in as many scoring positions as you can, and just with stats, like you'll probably end up winning the match. So I don't know. I know tomorrow I'm going to try to go get in a lot of wrestling positions.
I remember you said this when we visited you in Iowa 6 weeks ago or something like that. You said, I want to have a skills competition with Aaron Brooks. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah. I never really thought of a wrestling match like that till probably this guy. And he thinks of wrestling as a skills position and like a skills contest, right? Or you can think of it as like a brawl or somewhere in between, right? And I'm probably somewhere in between that, if I'm being honest. But it's like, if I truly believe my skills are better, like, why not? Let's go try to get in positions, and let's go see who's got the most skill. And skill, like, I think brawling also takes skill, but I think it's gonna be fun.
At this point, given your career record, and given he's won, 2 titles, he's got to be the favorite to win at this point. Is there even a small degree, like, yes, you have to be prepared for everyone in the country, but to win it, ultimately, you're likely going to have to go through this guy. Is there an element of that in the preparation and training? That's for either of you guys.
Oh, I have so much trust in this guy, and I got interviewed the other day, and it was like, "Are you doing anything specific for Brooks?" Honestly, I'm just listening to my coaches. I know it was a thing, like, it was for Hill Day last year, like my elbow in, and he was like, "Yeah, I don't want you to, like, pretty much reach with your left hand," and he like disguised it in a way, because, like, I remember we were almost putting something in for Amin. He's like, Amin does it, like, it totally kind of flustered my workout, so it kind of messes it. I think he knows it messes with my head if we're, like, specifically working on one guy, because honestly, I believe that any guy in the country can get beat at any point in college wrestling. So it's like, you got to approach. We talk about approaching every match the same. Whether, like, our team wrestled at Dektronics Open yesterday, and whether you're wrestling at Dektronics Open or you're wrestling at the All-Star Classic, it's the same approach, like, same training, and same training. But by same training, I mean, like, listening to this guy. Right? He's gonna have me prepared and ready for whatever that is, whether that's disguising Brooks' preparation or disguising Hilde or anyone in the country's preparation. So
okay, Rope, I'm curious on if you're disguising things, you don't need to come and tell us right now because he's here.
Yeah,
no, seriously, yeah, right. So the idea of you got to beat Brooks to win a national title, most likely.
Well, it's getting to know your athlete and what they need. And the more I got to know Parker, the more I started to understand that his motivation is really, honestly, not winning. That's not what gets him fired up. The extra motivation doesn't come after a loss. He really evaluates how well he's wrestling. And it's more of a battle with himself. What does he always talk about? Having no regrets, right? Controlling the things that he can. So his opponent, every time he wrestles, is going to be himself. So if that's really the way he views his competition, that's the way I'm going to structure his practices. He doesn't want to think about another guy. That's not really motivates him. I'm going to beat this guy because I want to beat him. That's not what makes Parker click. He wants to see how good he can get at this sport, and it's a journey of self-improvement for himself. And I admire that too. It's one of the things that I try and embody, and one of the things I've learned a whole lot from him. So really that came from making mistakes early and seeing what makes him tick. And you got to go through that process with your athletes just like he does with skills. You try things, and if it doesn't work out well, you make the adjustment. And it was the target in with Amin when we worked on that as workouts, because it kind of dipped. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put these skills in and just talk about him being skills to make him a more well-rounded wrestler, which is still the truth, because you can't lie to your athlete. They'll see right through it every single time. So, yeah, we're putting things in for specific wrestlers, because he's gotten himself to a point now to where man, if he just goes and wrestles his best, and I love his mentality, you can lose any time, and you definitely can. But if he wrestles his best, most people, he's just better than. He's put in more time, or he's acquired more skill, or whatever you believe about wrestling. He can just go wrestle his match. But to make that next jump and pass those people that are a little ahead of him, got to acquire more skill. So putting those skills in to make him more well-rounded was the way to approach it with him, and just been going that way ever since. It's really not a trick. I don't think you can trick your athlete, especially as one as motivated as him. He's going to see right through it, and when they do, that breaks the trust. And he can tell you, I'm open and honest. That's one thing, and I'll tell you things you don't want to hear too. That's a piece of it. But just figuring out what makes him click and what type of workout he thrives in. It's just learning how to get him to be his best.
How much have you developed as a psychologist through coaching, right? Because it's like that's what you're describing a little bit.
Yeah, if I could go back and do my major again, I might not do applied mathematics, even though that helped me a lot on how I think about the sport. Psychology would have been a great skill to have because there is so much involved in that. And spend a lot of time where I go back to that practice, my practice again, figuring out how the brain works. How do you acquire muscle memory? I'm studying mindset right now and the difference your mindset can make with even the way your body responds to things, even illness and sickness or surgery. So there's our brain, we don't understand a whole lot of it and how it works, and just tapping in and trying to figure that out more and more. It just gives you another tool to go to when you're trying to make an athlete make a jump. So a lot, man, and I wish I knew more about psychology. I'd be a much better coach because of it.
Is he a psychologist?
Yeah, this dude, I swear he knows me better than I know myself sometimes. But that was, like, interesting, like, you brought this up, but it's, like, in bed, like, I was thinking last night, I was thinking about, like, goals, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking about, like, I was reading that Goggins book, he's like, write down your goals, and I think my goals, right, like, is it to win NCAAs? Yeah, but I think it's almost every day, I just want to get better, right? And I think through that, it's like, I don't know, like the glitz and glamour, it doesn't really, I don't know, intrigue me. It's like cool, but it's also, I just want to like see how good I can get at this. And like, if you really see how good you can get, like winning tomorrow could happen or it couldn't, or winning NCAAs could happen or it couldn't. I don't know, I think maybe I'm weird, but it's my parents instilled consistency in me, and I just want to see how consistently better I can get, like each and every day. There's really no, I don't know, like that's my goal. Like get better each day. Like it's weird.
Sure, I love it. Weird, define weird, right? I think weird's good.
Yeah.
You're Keep Austin weird, right? It's the weird capital of the country.
Keep Austin weird.
All right, we're running down. It's almost been an hour. It feels like we've been here for 10 minutes, but I'm gonna give you guys the final word, the same thing you might want to say, and we'll start with you, Rope.
Just take the time to say thank you to everybody involved with this. It's been, even just how we were treated at the hotel, checking in and things, it's been an awesome event, handled first class. And, man, you see people setting up. We're here early doing the interview and how much work goes on behind the scenes. And thanks for all the work that goes into parents being able to watch this at home and not having to travel. And so thanks to everybody, and thanks for Parker for putting in the work to get yourself here. And I'm glad I get a front row seat for it, man. It's going to be some awesome matches, and I get to watch them live and be here. That's just a cool thing. And that's a big focus for me this year, is not losing sight of all those things. And I'm the same way. I try and get better every day, and I'm an obsessive personality. I'm not going to miss these cool moments. So thanks to everybody involved, man. It's going to be a fun few days, and then tomorrow is going to be even better when we get to strap it up and find out how well we've done this preparation.
Yeah, like all he said. It's I don't know. Yeah, pretty much. I thank you guys for having me out, and I know I'm looking forward to wrestling Brooks tomorrow, and I think I know it's gonna be fun. Like anytime you get to go out there and scrap, it's a great opportunity, right? Can't take it for granted. But thank you guys for having me. Thank you, Mark, and tuned into the All-Star Classic tomorrow at 7 p.m.
Awesome. Call me Mark. Most people don't call me Mark. That's cool. Most people call me
bad.
Bader. No, it's
Mr.
My
Bader.
mom's the only.
I'm kidding.
Awesome. All right. Well, hey, excited and glad we got to do this in studio. It's we don't get to do it very often. So Parker, thanks for coming in. Lee, thanks for joining us back there in the far corner. If you can hear us.
Over in the back. I'm here cleaning up, straightening up, picking up trash. So I'll take care of all that.
Coffee, no cream, no sugar.
You got it,
black.
man. Straight black, just caffeine.
All right, folks. Yeah, tune in tomorrow night. Watch the All-Star Classic. Until then, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.